What's going on, YouTube? I'm back with another video here today. Currently, as I'm filming this, it is 1:19 in the morning. And this video is going to be my 2017-2018 Premier League predictions. So, being that it's like 1:20 in the morning, I only have about 9-10 hours before Leicester-Arsenal game begins tomorrow at like 2-ish. So, I gotta get this video made, gotta edit it, hopefully upload it before the game starts. If not, oh well, but let's get into this. So my bottom three team in no particular order are Huddersfield, Brighton, and Burnley. Now, let me just talk about Huddersfield and Brighton. I don't really know much about them, seeing I can't watch all the games over here in America, but I know Huddersfield came through the playoffs, and really I'm not too sure about anything about Brighton, but I've kind of just looked around, and it just doesn't seem like they have the manpower or the strength or the caliber of roster to stay in the Premier League. So I'm just gonna say those two teams will definitely get relegated. I hope they can prove me wrong, but I just do not see that they have what it takes to stay in the league. As for Burnley, I do know their best player has left, Michael Keane. He obviously signed to Everton for like £30 million or whatever that was. That was a great deal for Everton, but it sucks for Burnley because they just lost their best player or defender, so they just don't have what it takes to stay up, unfortunately. Coming in at number 17, I have Swansea. Now, this is a really tough one. I mean, I could have easily had them relegated, but I think if Gylfi Sigurdsson stays, I think they'll have just enough power to stay in the league. And also, their signing of Tammy Abraham. Now, he was a very good young prospect, and we should finally be able to see what he's capable of in the Premier League, and he'll finally get some good, decent minutes, so that should be interesting. But if Gylfi Sigurdsson's gone, then Swansea are just relegated. They just don't have the roster capable of staying up in the league, unfortunately. Coming in at 16th, I've got Newcastle United. Now, yes, Rafa Benitez, he is a very good manager, and they got some great players like DeAndre Yedlin, Jonjo Shelvey, and of course Dwight Gale. Yes, he was banging in goals last year in the lower league, but it is yet to be known if he is a proven striker in the Premier League. I just do not think they have a good enough roster to really go up any further than maybe 15th, 14th, maybe. I think that's the highest they could achieve, but Benitez, he really needs to make some more signings. Like, I think the only player that I know that they've brought in is Atsu. You know, he's a good player, but they need more Premier League caliber type players. And they have the money, they just haven't spent it that much of it yet. But once they do, maybe that'll change my mind. But as of right now, they just do not have the roster capable of making it anything higher than 14th or so. As high as 14 or as low as I have them, or possibly getting relegated, but I just personally don't see that with them having Rafa Benitez. Coming in at 15, I have Watford. Now, I don't really know much about Watford. I do know that they signed Will Hughes for the championship. Now, he has been a long-awaited prospect, and now he's finally getting his chance, so we'll see how good he is. But besides that, they haven't really made any moves, so I don't really see him coming any higher than 15th. I mean, they can drop lower than that, but I think 15th is a pretty good spot for them. Coming in at number 14, I have Stoke City. They've had a really interesting transfer window. They've lost their best player, Arnautovic. He was really good for them last year. Like I said, he was probably their best player. But they also signed Kurt Zouma. Now, he is a really good, young, tough defender. He's like 6'3", 215. The guy's just a monster. I think he still has a lot to prove because Chelsea just weren't really giving him that many chances, and I know he's had quite a few injuries over there at Chelsea. And they still got Jack Butland. He is one of the really good young English keepers, so he'll stay there. I don't see him going anywhere. But they need to make a few more signings in order to try to improve for this Premier League season. Coming in at 13, I have Crystal Palace. Now, they have been really quiet this transfer window. The only person that I believe that they have brought in that I know of is Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Now, he is a really good young player who I think he could be just a really solid player in the Prem. He's untested, he's a little unexperienced, but as soon as he because he's going to Crystal Palace, he's going to be getting a lot of game time and starts. So this is really good for his career. But besides that, they haven't made any other moves. So people are hyping up Wilfried Zaha this year. I think he's a great young player. I think he should at least score 10 plus goals this Premier League season. I mean, he's shown a lot of promise last year. Then obviously you got the main man, Benteke. He's been linked with a few clubs, but for right now, I think he's going to stay because his main priority is to be the main guy, and that is exactly what he is at Crystal Palace. But I don't see him coming any higher than 14th. Coming in at number 12, I have West Brom. Now, like Crystal Palace, West Brom has been very quiet in the transfer window. The only player that they've signed is Jay Rodriguez. Now, back in the day, yeah, he was a pretty good player, but injuries just kept on slowing his career. So now he's finally getting a chance with West Brom to prove himself, to prove everybody that he's still got something left in the tank. And also, Tony Pulis, I think he's one of the best Premier League managers. Yeah, he's a little defensive, but he just gets the job done. And really, at the end of the day, as the front office people, that's all you can ask for. And I think mid-table for West Brom this year is really where they should be focusing on. And Tony Pulis, he's the right man for the job, and he will get the mid-table. I don't see him going any higher than 10, but I think realistically 12th place is where they should finish. Coming in at number 11, I have Leicester City. Leicester City are a very interesting team to me. So, well, first of all, I don't think they have any of that magic left in the tank that they had from 2 years ago when they had Claudio Ranieri as their manager, and now they have Shakespeare. At the time, I disagreed with why they cut Ranieri, but Shakespeare has proven to do a really good job with the team. Now, two of Leicester's players have been linked with some other clubs. Riyad Mahrez, obviously, he's been linked with Roma for around, I think it's like 30 to 40 million pounds, something like that. And then, for some reason, Danny Drinkwater is being linked to Chelsea, and they're willing to pay 30 to 35 million pounds for him, which I think that is just absurd for a player like him. Anyway, I mean, not that he's bad, but he's nothing special. And obviously, they signed Iheanacho from Manchester City. That's a great sign for him, or for them. He's a really young striker, but he's really good. Very clinical, great finisher. Didn't play many minutes last year, but he's going to get a lot of playing time this year. That's really good for him. But like I said, they don't really have any of that same magic or fire in the pit like they did a few years back. So I would say 11 is 11's 10 maybe. That's a realistic place for them to finish this year. All right, coming in at number 10, I have Bournemouth. They've had an amazing transfer window. I mean, one of the better ones next to Everton and Manchester City, but obviously they don't have the same amount of money to spend as they do. But with the money they spent, they've gotten Jermaine Defoe. Jermaine Defoe, yeah, he's kind of old, but you know what? He's one of the most underrated strikers, if not the most underrated striker in the Premier League. He's good for like at least 15 goals, I believe, this season. I mean, he just bangs them in left and right. I mean, age doesn't really matter to him. It's just a number for him. Also, they've got Nathaniel Ake from Chelsea. Chelsea, they are losing so many players. I mean, they lost him. They also lost Begovic, who was signed with Bournemouth, obviously. I mean, he's a great keeper, obviously an upgrade from the last one. And for Ake, I mean, especially if Chelsea plan on running that 3 center back formation, they really could have used him as just a backup or a rotation player for the 3-man setup. I mean, Chelsea, they just lack so much depth. But let's not talk about Chelsea. This is about Bournemouth. But yeah, they've had one of the better transfer windows, I would say. And I would say 10. Maybe that's a little overachieving, but I'm just gonna make the pick that they will finish 10th, just because I love what they have done this transfer window. Number 9, I'm going with Southampton. For me, they're a really tough team to predict. I'd say they could finish anywhere from 8th to 12th. I mean, they just haven't really done anything, to be honest. And then the only real news for them is that Virgil van Dijk may not be playing for them. I mean, he's probably going to go to Liverpool. But depending on that, how that situation goes, who knows what happens. But yeah, I'm just going with 9th just because they're always so consistent year after year. I mean, they have probably one of the best youth academies in all of England. They just produce talent like it's no other. So I'm going to go with 9th. Okay. Coming in at number 8, I have West Ham. Now, earlier I said that Bournemouth probably had the best transfer window, but I completely forgot about West Ham. I'd say for value, they won the transfer market, like easy in my opinion. Zabaleta on a free. I mean, obviously, yeah, he's a little bit old. He's not a Manchester City player, but I think he's perfect for West Ham. I mean, he'll start. He's not the fastest guy, but he'll give them what they need because obviously they were short at right back last year. Okay, they also have Joe Hart on loan from Manchester City. Now, Adrian, he wasn't that bad, so I don't know why they felt like they had to go get Joe Hart, but hey, he's a little bit better than Adrian, so I mean, I guess if you can improve a position, you might as well improve a position. Next, they got Arnautovic from Stoke. I mean, he's a great, big, physical player that'll bring a nice presence to them, which they really need on the wings. I mean, Feghouli, he's, hasn't been really performing very well. And then also Ayew, he was hurt last year, so he didn't really get much action. So Arnautovic should be a great game changer for them. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. And then also, obviously, the best signing for them, not just for them, I think of the whole transfer window for value is Chicharito. I mean, last year he didn't have the best season for Leverkusen, but he still had a great season for Leverkusen. Now, let me remind you, he's probably one of the best, if not the best, Mexican player of all time. That might be a little controversial, but he's their leading goal scorer. That is what I know. He's going to bring a lot of goals to West Ham. I'd say 15 to 20 goals easy, and I think he has a point to prove to Manchester United for letting him go, and I think he's got a lot of fire in him to prove him wrong, so I think he's in for a good season. And also West Ham, this is their second season at the London Stadium, so I think they adjusted to the first year of just the new pitch and everything, the facility, the fans, the crowd, how everything's placed, so they've adjusted to that. So yeah, I'd say 8th is a really good place for West Ham to finish, and I have to say anything less than 10th will be a disappointment to them. Coming in at number 7, I have Everton. Now, not to take anything away from them, but I still think West Ham had a little bit better of a transfer window, but they had probably one of the next best ones for the budget that they had. They got Michael Keane, an amazing up-and-coming young British defender, so that's good. Wayne Rooney. It's interesting. Who knows what he's going to bring to the table? I think he will have a lot better of a season. Obviously, he'll get a lot more playing time. I mean, he's going back home to where he started, so that should be interesting. Also, they signed Jordan Pickford, probably one of the best young up-and-coming British goalkeepers, so that's good. They're getting a lot of young players. And then they also got Sandro Ramirez. He should be an interesting threat to add to their strike force. And then, obviously, Ross Barkley. That's up in the air. He's probably going to leave. But yeah, 7th is probably a realistic place for Everton to finish this year. And anything below 9th, I think it would be a big disappointment for them. Okay, here we go. The top 6. Top 6 is always just so hard to predict, and especially this year. This year is definitely no difference. But at number 6, I'm going with Arsenal. Now, so as of like a few hours ago, or I've seen online that Arsenal have just offered Alexis Sanchez a new offer worth $300K a week. But personally, at his age, at 28, about to turn 29, I think he would care more about, being in Champions League football. Obviously, Arsenal are not going to be in the Champions League. They're going to be in the Europa League. I mean, they could get to the Champions League if they finish in the top 4 or if they win the Europa League. But I think Alexis is at the age where he really wants to win the Champions League, and that's most important to him. Anyway, some of their signings, Kolasinac, oh my God, he's a great player, great left back. I mean, we all saw it in the Community Shield. He had that goal against Chelsea. He should be really good to vamp up their defense. And obviously, Lacazette, aka Alexandre Lacazette, he should be a great addition to their strike force. Yeah, Ligue 1 is not the best league, but obviously he's quality. He's top class. World class, I would say he's on the edge of world class, but obviously he's in the league where it's not as competitive. So we'll see how he does. I mean, I still think he should do really well, but at the end of the day, I'm sorry, Arsenal. I just can't not see you finishing in the top 4. But it's possible, but especially if Alexis leaves, it won't happen in my opinion. Coming in at number 5, I have chosen Liverpool. So the reason I've chosen Liverpool for number 5 is because I just keep on reading these reports of Klopp refusing to sell Coutinho, and I think if Coutinho stays, like, they're going to be a very good team. But you could also argue that if they sell Coutinho and they could buy a ton of good players with their money, I mean, what would you rather have, Coutinho or like 2 or 3 really good players for that money you would get from Coutinho? Anyway, Mohamed Salah, what a great signing he was. Oh my gosh, he's had a really good preseason. Him and Mane, that duo, is just amazing what they could do for the attacking options. Like, they just open up so much. Daniel Sturridge, he is a big question. I mean, who knows what he's going to do? He used to be a really good striker, but injuries have just slowed him down. And then also Adam Lallana, he's going to be injured for like about 3 months. So, you know, they might start out a little bit slowly. And then also, they're playing Champions League this year, so who knows what that schedule will do to them and how it will affect them. But overall, I would say 5th is right around where Liverpool should finish. Coming in at number 4, I'm choosing Spurs. Now, I don't think they're going to have as good of a year as they did last year for simply one reason. They have not done anything in the transfer window. Like, I don't know what they are thinking. The only thing that's really happened is that they've sold Kyle Walker for $50 million, and I don't know if they're even going to plan on buying any other players with that money. I mean, plus they're going to be playing Champions League this year, so it's going to add a lot of extra games, and they're going to be a lot more tired onto their schedule. So who knows how they can handle that, because obviously last year they weren't playing Champions League. And plus, with their stadium being built, they're going to be playing at Wembley for their home stadium, so every game's just going to be a huge game for like other teams' fans to go to and to get really hyped up with. And Wembley's just a lot bigger than Spurs Stadium. I mean, the Spurs old stadium, White Hart Lane, was actually one of the smaller pitches in all of the Premier League. So I don't know. Who knows how that will affect the players? Probably won't affect them too much. But yeah, so it should be interesting to see how they finish. But I would say 4th, because I think arguably you could say that they have the best starting 11 in all of the Premier League. They're super young. But if Harry Kane gets hurt, if Dele Alli gets hurt, if Eriksen gets hurt, I mean, they could be in big trouble. Now, the top 3 is where it really gets interesting. So, at number 3, I'm going with Chelsea. They've had a pretty good transfer window this year, but the only problem is all of their signings are replacements for other players that they got rid of. Like Rudiger, great young player. You could say he reminds people of young, cheap Boateng. Great player, but he's just a replacement for John Terry. Then you got Bakayoko from Monaco. Great player, very young, a lot of promise, but he's just a replacement for Matic. And then finally you got Alvaro Morata. They paid a lot for him. I don't know how much it was, but is a really big amount of money. And he's obviously just a replacement for Diego Costa. Plus, they got Eden Hazard, who's actually still injured. I think will be for like a few weeks. So who knows how he's going to do when he comes back into the lineup. Also, they're playing Champions League football this year, so that's gonna make them very tired. That's gonna add a lot of stress to them. So who knows how they'll be able to handle that. So I would say 3rd is where that Chelsea should finish, but I could also see him finishing 2nd. But I definitely cannot see him winning the title again. And then there were the 2 Manchester teams. With that being said, at number 2, I'm predicting that Manchester United will finish at number 2. They've had a pretty good transfer window. They've signed Lindelof, the center back from Benfica. That was a clear position that they needed help with, so he looks good. That should be interesting. They got Matic from Chelsea. Now, I think he is a really good signing because it allows Paul Pogba to push up field more, to let him be more creative and be who he was. Because last year, I don't really think Paul Pogba was playing in the right position. He's kind of more of a defensive midfielder, and that's not how you play Paul Pogba. That's not how he plays the way he plays. And obviously, their biggest signing is Romelu Lukaku. He's interesting. Obviously, he's going to get you a lot of goals, but he tends to disappear during the big games, and especially since Manchester United are always in the champion. Well, I shouldn't say always. They weren't in the Champions League last year, but since this year they will be in the Champions League. Romelu Lukaku has never played in the Champions League, so it should be interesting to see how he performs during that. Also, Henrik Mkhitaryan, if he can stay healthy the whole year, that'll be big because he's a great playmaker, and I believe he's world class as he's shown when he is healthy last year. Also, Marcus Rashford, he's training all offseason in LA. He's getting a lot bigger and stronger, so that should be an interesting element that he adds to the game. Anthony Martial, it should be really interesting to see the type of season that he has. If he can get it going, I mean, that just adds another really amazing attacking option for him because he's just too inconsistent at the moment for Mourinho to really trust him. And finally, David De Gea. It is amazing that they've kept David De Gea for another year away from Real Madrid. And it's just another bonus for him because he is clearly the best keeper in the Prem. So that's good. So Manchester United, I see him coming at number 2 simply because they just didn't spend as much as Man City. With that being said, I do believe Manchester City will win the league next year. The amount of money that they've spent on their defense is crazy. Obviously, they've gotten rid of all their old defenders, Kolarov, Zabaleta, Clichy, all those guys, and they've replaced them with Mendy for the left back. They signed him for about $67 million. Oh, it's ridiculous. I mean, he's such a good player, but it's ridiculous. They got Danilo to play like a backup right back. They say he can play left back, even center mid. He's just a very versatile player. I mean, that's obviously what Guardiola loves, versatile fullbacks. I mean, I don't know if I would have signed him, but hey, he's the manager. And then also they got their new goalkeeper, Ederson from Benfica. So hopefully for them, he'll be better than Claudio Bravo. I mean, I think that's pretty easy. And also they've gotten Kyle Walker from Spurs, $50 million. So it should be interesting to see how he does and how he plays at Man City. At the right mid position, they've got Bernardo Silva, a really great young, promising Portuguese player from Monaco. I mean, it's kind of sad how many players Monaco have left. I mean, who knows? Kylian Mbappe will probably be the next one to leave for them. Anyway, and just all the other existing players that they have. Kevin De Bruyne, I expect him to have a really good season. In fact, I expect him to win the Player of the Year. I mean, he's been really good at Manchester, but I think this year especially is going to be his year. Sterling, I mean, it should be interesting to see how he plays. I mean, he's been really good. If he can stay consistent, that'll be good for him. And I think one of the most interesting topics for Manchester City is their striker position. With Aguero and now Jesus will be back for a full season. It'll be interesting to see if he can stay healthy because, I mean, he's such a good player. I mean, he's on track to score like 20 plus goals last year, and with him healthy, him and Aguero together can be like probably one of the deadliest striker combos in the Prem. Or if not, they can just do Aguero, just a lone striker formation with Aguero and then Jesus as a backup, or vice versa. So I think Jesus has a lot to prove this year. And also for Guardiola, if he does not win the title this year, I believe it is a bust. And if he comes anywhere below winning the title, I do believe that Manchester City will fire him. Because everywhere he's gone, he's won trophies, but he obviously didn't win any trophies last year. So Manchester City will be the Premier League champions.